The Pittsburgh Steelers' symbol of fandom, the famous rally towel, known as the Terrible Towel, has become an emblem of not just the team, but the city itself. The Terrible Towel has seen the top of Mount Everest, and it has visited the International Space Station. And it all started as a gimmick in the 1975 playoffs with the help of legendary broadcaster Myron Cope. There have been numerous and varying versions of the rally towel, but the Steelers seem ready to upgrade, announcing a new Terrible Towel for 2025. The Pittsburgh Steelers will reveal the 50th anniversary edition of the Terrible Towel next week, as the team announced on its X account Thursday. At the time, the towel idea was mocked by local media, particularly the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Before that playoff game in 1975 against the Baltimore Colts, Cope noted that there were fewer than a dozen original Terrible Towels on display at the stadium. However, he noted that changed as the Steelers players were in the tunnel prior to introductions, as he wrote in his book, W.A. Cope recalled, nearing kickoff, the Steelers gathered in their tunnel for introductions, whereupon the crowd exploded, and suddenly, by my estimation, 30,000 Terrible Towels twirled from the fists of fans around the stadium. The Steelers beat the Colts that day 28-10, cementing the Terrible Towel in Steelers lore. Had Pittsburgh lost the game that day, who knows what would have become of the Terrible Towel? We may have never heard from it again. L.B. Malik Harrison. Experience/age. 6th season, 27 years old. Contract status. $3.21 million cap hit, signed through 2026. The past. Harrison became the second Baltimore Ravens inside linebacker in as many seasons to switch sides in the AFC North rivalry, following Patrick Queen to Pittsburgh. He joined the Steelers after spending 5 seasons in Baltimore where he never was a full-time starter. Harrison started 34 of the 76 games he appeared in with Baltimore after being selected in the 3rd round of the 2020 NFL Draft out of Ohio State. In 2024, he played in 15 games, starting 7, and recorded the first 2 sacks of his NFL career. He also set career highs with 54 tackles and 3 for a loss. Harrison had 4 tackles in the Ravens' wildcard playoff win against the Steelers and 7 the following week in a divisional round loss to Buffalo. He started both regular season matchups against the Steelers. 2025 outlook. To kick off free agency, the Steelers gave Harrison a 2-year, $10 million contract that included a $4.08 million signing bonus. It seemed a bit curious considering Harrison never was a full-time starter with the Ravens, and he isn't assured of starting with his new team. Harrison's signing, though, marked the end of a Landon Roberts run with the Steelers, and Harrison likely will step into Roberts' role at inside linebacker. Queen never missed a snap last season, so Harrison will compete for playing time with Cole Holcomb and Peyton Wilson at the other inside linebacker spot. Harrison was a core special teams player for the Ravens, and he likely will be used in that capacity with the Steelers. He also is capable of playing outside linebacker, increasing the team's depth at that position. The biggest offseason question for the Pittsburgh Steelers had been when Aaron Rodgers would finally sign, and now that he's a Steeler, the next biggest question still involves the future Hall of Fame quarterback. Pittsburgh can't be completely done adding talent around Rodgers, right? DK Metcalf was a nice move, but it really just offset the loss of talent in George Pickens. Now, the Steelers should do exactly what some have whispered in recent weeks and continue to whisper: trade for Green Bay Packers wideout Romeo Doubs. Having spent time catching passes from Rodgers in Green Bay, Doubs is no stranger to his tendencies. And he also impressed Rodgers quite a bit during their time together with the Packers. Rodgers went on record multiple times praising Doubs for his wow plays. The Steelers should go all in on a Romeo Doubs trade, and it makes perfect sense. Looking at Rodgers' past praise of Doubs, this move makes a ton of sense strictly based on that premise. However, if you look at Doubs' skill set, it makes even more sense. Doubs' ability to make those wow plays would essentially slot right in to take the place of the type of plays we saw out of Pickens. Now, I am not saying the two are of equal talent level, but we've seen some pretty incredible catches from Doubs during his days in Green Bay. He has that similar ability to go up and make eye-popping grabs like Pickens would do in Pittsburgh. Both of them are 6'2", 6'3" territory and have that presence as a physical wideout that can impose their will on defensive backs, especially in the case of a 50-50 ball. To trade for Dew likely wouldn't cost much either, as he enters the final year of his rookie deal. The Packers have invested heavy draft capital in the likes of Matthew Golden and Savion Williams, plus they still have to make a decision on Christian Watson. Dew seems more than expendable, and no other team makes more sense than the Steelers. This feels like it's only a matter of time. When thinking about the Pittsburgh Steelers' strength, especially over the last couple of years, many point to their defense. Given the inconsistency of the offense recently, the Steelers' defense has managed to keep the team relevant year after year. However, former NFL scout John Middlekauff doesn't think the unit has been as good as it's typically known for. And how he illustrated his point will sting for black and gold fans. The Baltimore Ravens defense is actually, I think, the way we talk about the Steelers, Middlekauff said Monday on FS1's The Herd. The Steelers' defense hasn't been as good as they were way back in the day. The Ravens and Steelers are similar franchises in many ways. The two have consistently been atop the AFC North for decades now. They're each led by the consistency and stability provided by John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin. Those two are the longest-tenured NFL head coaches, and neither seems to be at risk of losing their job anytime soon. Defensively, though, it's hard to argue with Middlekauff based on the way the 2024 season came to an end. Backed by strong defensive play, the Steelers actually had a multiple-game advantage on the Ravens in the division heading into the second half of the season. While there were plenty of issues across the roster, the defense had several problems during the Steelers' 5-game slide to end the year. They couldn't stop the run whatsoever. Miscommunications against the pass also led to wide-open receivers gashing the unit late in the year. You don't have to look any further than the Ravens' dismantling of the Steelers in the playoffs to back that point up. Baltimore kept the Steelers' offense quiet right out of the gate and ran all over Pittsburgh in what was one of the Steelers' worst defensive performances in franchise history. As expected, Pittsburgh's working to fix that. Communication is a major factor that the team has been working on throughout this offseason. All things considered, the Steelers' defense should play better in 2025. Second-year cornerback Beanie Bishop Jr. seems impressed by the adjustments they're making this offseason, and he's not alone. Looking at the unit as a whole, it has improved in several different ways. For one, it is much stronger up the middle. Defensive linemen Derek Harmon and Yehia Black should help, especially against the run. Pittsburgh also may get to see Peyton Wilson start for the full season. Based on his impressive rookie campaign, he could provide a jolt as a full-time starter at linebacker. The Steelers also added to their secondary with Darius Slay, Juan Thornhill, and others. With the way the 2024 season ended, the Steelers' defense has to get off to a good start in 2025, especially since there are far more questions on the offensive side of the ball. However, they have the talent to do so. If the Steelers are going to have any chance of becoming a contender in 2025, their defense must play strong. If it does, it might help change the minds of analysts like Middlekauff.